7. I promised you we were going to have Councilor Yancey in the building, and guess what? He is. I know it's former, but it's like presidency for me. You are the city councilor. After 17 times being elected, I think you earned that title.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, Boston, and you are so blessed to have this very committed, talented young lady waking you up this morning. Tayla, thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us.
For the services that you rendered this community.
Services, pause. We will not. Services rendered to the community. Can we talk about your services that you rendered to the community for all of the years of my living life?
Well, it's been an honor and a privilege for me to serve. I just have a great sense of gratitude that the people of Boston had demonstrated such support to me over the years. And today we're going to talk a little politics, but you know I'm here primarily to remind people that this Saturday, March 5th, 2016, between 12 noon and 3 p.m., we're having the 30th annual C.Yancey Book Fair.
Yes.
Now, I lend my name to the effort, but believe me, my wife Marzetta, my book fair coordinator, Lynette Frazier, we even have personified media promoting this annual event, and it gives us an opportunity to give back to the community that has given us so much over so many years.
So, really quickly, if you don't mind, can we talk a little politics first and then get back into the book fair?
Sure. I will remind you of the book fair, though.
Yeah, absolutely,
this Saturday, 12 noon to 3 p.m. at the Reggie Lewis Center. Everyone knows where the
Everybody knows.
In fact, I was there for the groundbreaking for the Reggie Lewis Center. Governor Well was in office at the time. And prior to that, prior to becoming a city councilor, I was president of the Black Political Task Force, and we negotiated with Governor Dukakis and then Governor King and Governor Dukakis again to build the Roxbury Community College. We got a commitment for $25 million back in 1982. Same facility today will be well over $200 million. So we have had the opportunity to make some positive things happen. There's a great deal of leadership in the city of Boston, and I was happy to be a part of it.
So I was unaware. A black caucus? What was it?
The Black Political Task Force.
Black Political Task Force. Does one exist today?
Yes, it does. Not quite as active as it was when I was president. I'm not bragging.
Who's the president now?
I believe Dorothea Jones is in the leadership position of that organization. But back in the late 1970s, it was founded by none other than John D. O'Brien and many other community activists. And I was happy to be a part of that, and they elected me president in 1982. Unfortunately, in 1983, I ran for city council and I was elected, and our bylaws prevented elected officials to continue in leadership positions of the Black Political Task Force. But we were a force to be reckoned with. We screened candidates. We won every precinct where we covered, and we covered more than, I believe, 82 precincts at the time. And it was just a great experience. It reminded me a little bit of my experience in Durham, North Carolina. They had, I lived in Durham for just 1 year when I was doing some consulting work, developed a 91-acre industrial park in Durham. And we got acquainted with the Durham Committee. It was organized similar to the way the Black Political Task Force was organized, except they didn't reveal who they were supporting until election night, and every candidate that organization supported was in fact elected. Now, we don't have that in Boston, but it was an interesting model, and we were struck by the fact that it was based upon the interests of the African American community.
So do you think that now that you are no longer an elected official, that you could become president once again? And I think had we had this Black Political Task Force a few years ago, we might have a black mayor today.
Well, it's interesting that City of Boston has never elected an African American as its mayor. Every other major city across the country did that. In fact, when I ran for the city council the first time in 1979,
Really? That was the first
I
time?
lost twice before I was elected to the city council. I was determined. So my third time I won, and I was elected 16 times.
16 times after that.
So
Okay.
I am, I mentioned 1979 because I campaigned citywide because we did not have district representation. That's something that we won in 1981 when I was a spokesperson for the campaign for district representation in 1981. We worked on that referendum question at the same time I was running for city council a second time. But in 1979, I campaigned on the idea of making Boston the Atlanta of the Northeast.
Hey.
Now, some people took offense to that. You know, people in Boston are kind of snobbish sometimes. They say, how dare you compare us with a southern city? Well, Atlanta in 1978 elected Maynard Jackson as its African-American mayor. And no city was known as being more racist than Atlanta, Georgia, until they elected an African-American. And I believe that we can do the same thing here in the city of Boston.
We could.
We could. I mean, a lot of issues have to be dealt with, a lot of egos have to be dealt with, a lot of money has to be raised, but it's not just money. You have to have a real commitment to serve all the people of Boston, not just whites, not just blacks, not just Asian and Latino, but all the city of Boston. And one of my commitments during my tenure on the city council was to level the playing field and try to provide opportunities for all communities to participate in governance and in service. Because even today, we have a dismal record in terms of people of color in positions of authority relative to the proportion of people of color in the city of Boston. So we have a lot of work to do, Tayla.
We do, we do.
But part of it is to ensure that our community, particularly our children, receive a decent education. And we're still struggling for that. And that is also the prime impetus for us to flood the community with books every year. I'm getting back to C.Yancey Book Fair. You see how I did that? We must make the commitment to ensure that our children are educated. Part of that is reading to your child as often as you can. Providing books in the home. And I want every home to have a library. Yes, you know, the e-readers are fine, and the Facebook and the social media, that's fine. But give a child a book, sit down with the child, read to him or her to show them not only that you care about them, but that you value education.
Absolutely, and as a parent, I would like to say to parents, never use reading as a punishment. Go in your room and go read a book. That's you tell my child to go in a room and go read a book, you just gave them the whole world.
That's
So
right.
I would love for us to look at reading in a positive light,
Absolutely.
instead of it being more so like a punishment. Because I know a lot of parents are like, you know, bring a book so you don't have to bother me. And
it's a wrong attitude.
it's definitely
Last year,
is.
the theme of our book fair was reading is a joy. And I think it's very important for us to allow our children to experience the joy of learning and the joy of education, and at the same time, I encourage them to take responsibility for their education.
Absolutely.
And we have a great future ahead of us.
So you made mention, I want to give a shout out to the callers that are currently on the line right now. Thank you for your patience. Last time you were here, you made a comment about being active in your child's education and having something that you put in place for parents to be able to take 3 days off out of the year. Now, I've been telling parents this ever since you left.
Thank you, Tayla. God bless you, because it's been the best kept secret in the city of Boston. I hate to say it was by design, but I know that I had to fight more than 10 years even for that law. It is an ordinance for the city of Boston that was passed in 1994. It's called the Parental School Leave Ordinance, and I should call it the Alice W. Yancey Law, because I never knew when my mother was going to walk through the rear door of my classroom when I was going to the Boston Public Schools from kindergarten to high school. And I thought it was very important. You know, initially my assumption was that my mother and father came to school just to make sure that I was behaving myself. But they were really there to make sure that their 9 children going through the Boston Public School system received a decent education, made sure that the classrooms were well maintained, and make sure that the halls were clean, and that even the bathrooms were fit for human use, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So I encourage all parents and guardians to take ownership of their children's school and, of course, their children's education. And if your employer is giving you a hard time, get a copy of the ordinance that says that they can actually be punished if they fail to allow you to take 3 days off during the year. Of course, you have to work it out with your supervisor and plan it and not be irresponsible in terms of your employment situation. But that law is on the books. It's unpaid leave. For many years, I was trying to get an amendment to that law which allows people to get paid leave, but I could only do that for city employees. I think that should be a requirement for all employers in the city of Boston.
And what is the name of the ordinance again?
Parental School Leave Ordinance. It was patterned after the Family Medical Leave Act that's been on the books for many, many years. But this applies to your ability to be a real partner in your children's education, partnership with the teachers and the administrators at your school, as well as your child. And it's important that we get the word out that these schools belong to us. We must take ownership of it and insist that the school system provides services to our children that children in suburban areas can take for granted, including facilities. We can talk about building a new high school in the course of this discussion as well.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's something that we're definitely lacking. We know that many of these schools currently are laced with lead-filled pipes. Schools have to bring in bubblers and water coolers because the fountains.
It's absolutely disgraceful that Boston is perhaps the only major city in Massachusetts that hasn't built a new high school for our children since 1979, and I've been on, some say it's been a crusade of mine to build a new high school. We have built some new elementary and K-8, some middle schools. We still need to build more, but we're sending most of our 18 high school students in the city of Boston to substandard, outmoded facilities that cannot compete with the facilities that the children in Newton, for example, have to go to. And they tore down many schools that are a lot newer than the high schools that we have. Boston Latin Academy is housed in a building that I graduated from, and I'll say to you, I'm proud of the fact that God has allowed me to serve the people of Boston and the people for so many decades now. But I graduated from Boston Technical High School in 1966. 1966, in a building that my mother had graduated from in 1934, I believe.
Are you serious?
That same building, and now the children attending Boston Latin Academy are going to that same building, building that has some serious problems, but that's one of our better high school facilities. We're sending close to 5,000 Boston high school students to non-high school buildings. What I mean by that? Buildings designed for elementary school children, for middle school children. The very talented young people who are attending Boston Arts Academy are going to a building that was once condemned. It's located on Ipswich Street. It used to be a warehouse and a garage for the U.S. Postal Service. We can do better for our children. Our children are just as talented and have just as much potential as any other child around the world. But yeah, we're making life a little bit difficult for them because we're not providing the decent facilities. Now, some would say we can't build a new high school. They've been telling me that for 20 years.
But they just built that new building in Roxbury.
You took my point. It was interesting that when the school committee moved into the Boland building, they were commenting how much the environment that they work in has improved. I said, fine, but what about the environment that our children? The priority should have been to build a high school. It cost the same. And they found some creative way of financing it. We can find creative ways of financing a high school. After all, we found a very creative way to build a convention center, and we spent more than $157 million just to prepare the site to build that $1 billion convention center located in South Boston. We can do more for our children, but it's not really a question of money. It's a question of priority. So I'm calling out Mayor,
yes,
I'm
call
calling
them out,
out
call them out.
Mayor Walsh, stop sitting on your hands. Let's build this high school. You know we need it. I provided them with documentation for the last 2 years. So they decided they want to do a facility studies. I said, that's fine. We did one in 1996, which showed that we needed to build 2 new high schools.
Is that the high school redevelopment plan that's currently taking place?
Well, it's supposed to be. I haven't actually seen any documentation, but they've been engaged in a study for the last couple of years. I hope it has a better results than the last facility studies we did in 1996, where the Blue Ribbon Commission said the City of Boston should build 2 new high schools back in 1996. Guess what? None of the school buildings that our children are attending today are any younger than they were in 1996. Some say, well, we have empty seats. I said, we may have some empty seats at the lower grades. We definitely do not have enough seats at the high school level. And even if we did, the question of the facilities themselves, the fact that many of our children are attending high school that don't even have gymnasium, cafeterias, libraries, science labs, and that's a disgrace. And even our students who may be challenged, maybe some of the students who are going to what used to be called the Greater Eggleston Community High School, may have some academic issues. They need facilities more than anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a good excuse, and we need to impress upon the mayor and the city council that education is a priority. Facilities are not the be-all and end-all, but it certainly helps. We had students, tell you, love this story, at New Mission High, when they were located at the on Eggleston Street in Mission Hill. They won 2 statewide basketball championships. The sisters won, and the brothers won statewide championships. Yet they did not have their own.
Where do they
gymnasium.
practice?
They practice in some of the gymnasium in the neighborhood. Went to other facilities, but it was a disgrace. But they did succeed. And some would say, well, see, Councilor Yancey, you know, we don't need a new school because our children are doing well. They're doing well in spite of the poor facilities. And the students at Boston Latin School, God bless them, because they're succeeding in spite of racism and discrimination that virtually every person of color experiences at certain times in their lives. So I know I changed the subject a little bit.
No, that's fine. That's
Book
fine.
fair.
Book fair.
This Saturday, March 5th, Reggie Lewis Center, 12 to 3. We're working so hard, and my like I said, my wife is participating as well, preparing the books. And if you go to the Cardinal Square Library today, you will see more than 50,000 books being processed.
Really?
So we need volunteers, incidentally, for today and tomorrow. You know, we have to stuff those books in book bags. You know, imagine stuffing 50,000 books in bags. Now, some of them, hopefully we can give all of them away. If not, we recycle them, and we also provide support for daycare centers and schools all around the city of Boston. We've even sent books to the Caribbean and to Africa over the years, and we'll be doing the same. But we just need our community to step up and educate our children. And incidentally, Taylor, we have books that you will enjoy reading as well. We have pre-K books to postdoctorate level books. So,
Really?
So we have books for adults as well as children.
Okay. I think you sold a lot of people now.
Come on down.
You know, those college books are expensive.
Come on down. Come on down.
Again, I want to thank the callers that are currently on hold. Thank you for your patience. Good Rising Caller, you're live.
Hello.
Hi, baby, it's you.
Good morning. How are you? Good morning, Taylor, and good morning, Councilor Charles Yancey. This is Queen Phyllis. You know, you did answer some of my questions. You guys are like all over the place, and I'm just following you. This show is awesome, and we need this. And I want to thank you and congratulate you on your 30th book fair. Book fair. And also, I wanted to know. So when we register, I registered my granddaughter and myself. And my husband wanted to know, is it too late to register?
Well, today is the last day to register, but don't let that discourage you. Just show up. Pre-registration just allows you to get through the line a lot faster. You still have to register when you do show up, but please register. And we also provide a service for the children and the families. We have what's known as a CHIPS program, where we take dental prints, we take photographs, we take a lot of information about your child. In the unlikely, and God forbid anything were to happen to your child, but if a child goes missing, you can provide information instantaneously to the police. But that information stays with you. We don't hold on to any of it, but we just want to make sure that we're doing what we can at the book fair to provide families with that opportunity. Last year, I think we registered more than 150 young people. So we provide that. We also provide entertainment for everyone who comes. We're going to have a couple of singers. Some youth will be performing and dancing and singing, I'm sure. But most of all, people come there not because they want to hear a speech from Counselor Yancey. They come there because they thirst for knowledge and for information, and we're going to provide them with some new books. When we first started this book fair on February 28, 1987, a month before my little girl was born, she's now married, we had encouraged people to donate books, and they did. We had a few hundred books donated, but most of them were used, of course, and some of them were in pretty rough shape. We couldn't even distribute them. After that, we established a policy of providing only new books. So we work with publishing houses and for individuals who make contributions to the Yancey Book Fair Foundation. We buy books. We also have a special table because every once in a while someone has a book that's in excellent shape, so we put those aside on a separate table. They are not pre-packaged like the other books.
So you do accept books as
yes,
well?
Yes, if they're in very good condition, but we set those aside. They're not packaged for the children.
So they're just set aside so we can make sure that they're in the best condition before they're given out?
Yes, and they will be provided. There will be a special table at the book fair that will be available to adults. They can peruse and take what books they want. We also provide book bags, but at the end of the event, we have the distribution of the new books already pre-packaged in book bags. And that's what we're stressing. Right now we're processing about 50,000 of those books as we speak. And God love my volunteers. I thank you so much because no one's on payroll doing this work.
How do we become volunteers? Like, how can you, because I have students that I work with that may need some, like, community service time.
Well,
so you said you need volunteers today and tomorrow. How do we do that?
Right now, I just advise you to show up at the Carbon Square Library. That was the site of the very first book fair, but we outgrew it real fast. So between 10:30 and 5 p.m. today, come by the Carbon Square Library and we will put you to work. How's that? And thank you so much for offering to do that. We have young people and young at heart people like myself working on those books.
50,000 books. Former City Councilor Charles C. Yancey, if you have any questions, give us a call, 617-282-0062. Good rising, caller, you're live.
Rising.
Good rising. Hey, Miss G.
I'm calling back because I was wondering what Charles Yancey's take on Black history books, like them updating Black history books. And also, shouts out to you, Charles Yancey. I'm an alumni of Black Caucus. Started asking for me online.
Yes.
So I know about the Black Caucus.
Well, thank you so much for all your work, and again, I offer condolences for the horrible loss that you suffered as well. We are very concerned that our children know about their history, that our children understand that they come from a great heritage, that they should have a strong sense of self-esteem. One of the reasons why Black history must be taught in our schools. But again, I throw the challenge back to the community. We have to take time out and actually buy books for our kids and sit down and educate them and educate ourselves. You know, it's amazing that even the adults in our city are not really up to date on our history. You know, who heard of Lawrence Banks? Anyone? Very few people have. Lawrence Banks was elected to the Boston City Council in 1949. Yet, because of some political shenanigans, some of which we still have today, he was not allowed to serve until the last 4 months of the term. In August of 1951, he won his case against the city, determined that the Irish councilor who had his seat stuffed the ballot, and he was removed, and Lawrence Banks served only 4 months as a city councilor. And that's why nobody knows about Lawrence Banks. He was one of the earliest African-American city councilors, yes, and elected 1949. Some
Whoa.
people think that Tom Atkins was the first African-American. Some people even say Bruce Bowen. Bruce Bowen was elected to the city council 2 years before I was. So we need to know that history. When people talk about politics in Massachusetts, they had a justifiable sense of pride that we did elect an African-American governor. Deval Patrick served us for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I greeted him when he came to the State House and greeted him as he left. But we have a great deal of history here. African Americans have lived in the city of Boston before the city of Boston became a city. And we have always had a presence in the city, not in the numbers that we have today, but we've never elected an African American mayor. We've never had an African American fire commissioner. We've never had an African American police commissioner. Yet we can elect Barack Hussein Obama as president of the United States and have yet to achieve that level of political success within the city of Boston. I mean, in Newton, the residents of Newton for a while had an African American president, African American governor, and African American mayor. C.D. Warren is a great guy, and I commend him. I knew his dad very well. Joseph Warren was very, very proud to see his son elected mayor of Newton. Why can't we do that in Boston?
And I always did wonder that, like, how did Newton become more progressive than Boston? When did that happen?
Politics is very tough. You have to raise a lot of money, but most of all, the community itself has to be better organized.
So, I don't know if this oversteps any boundaries, but I've always wondered two things. The first thing I wondered is, what would you have done differently? Over the past 32 years, in hindsight, you know, I don't know if that part of your life is over or if you plan on running again in the future. We won't discuss that. We'll leave that alone. We'll take that off the table. But what would you have done differently?
Well, it's really hard to say. I think I'm getting a little cold here. It's hard to say, but I was just very thankful for the opportunity to serve the people, the community that I love. I was not perfect. I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes, but we also got a lot done. I'm very proud of the fact that even though initially we were told no, that we did build a police station on the corner of Morton and Blue Hill Avenue. That didn't happen by accident. It was a major struggle, political struggle inside City Hall to get that done. We were told no when we proposed building a community center to service the people at the Gallivan housing development. It was a struggle, but we put it together and we made it happen. That community center is there today. Initially, we would have said no to build another community center in Mattapan, but we persisted and we built the Mildred Avenue Community Center. And even the staff at the Mattapan Branch Library looked at me like I had two heads on my shoulders when I suggested that we need a new facility. The one located on Hazelton Street was, 7,000 square feet. It was a quaint old building, but it did not service the community well. So we fought hard and we built one of the best libraries in all the city of Boston at 1350 Blue Hill Avenue, the Mattapan Branch Library. And when you have your meetings there, at the Mattapan Branch Library, you're going to have the meeting in the Alice W. Yancey Community Meeting Room. And of course, my family has a great sense of pride that the Board of Trustees of the Boston Public Library saw fit to name that room after my mother, who was a very strong community activist. She worked 2 jobs. She served as a warden for the election department. She was a co-founder of ABCD along with Bob Cord and many others. She worked at Model Cities. She established the Women's Improvement League. She was on the board of directors of
Your mama was a woman crush Wednesday.
Infirmary. She organized annual cleanups in the neighborhood. And she raised, along with my dad, 9 of us. So if my mother could do that, I mean, who am I to complain? Yes, I made this year's campaign. Many members of the mayor's staff were actively campaigning against me. We have more than $200,000 going into my opponent's coffers. Most of that money came from outside of the community. But that's fine, that's politics. I'm not whining, I'm not complaining. That's just the way life is. I mean, Lawrence Banks didn't even get the chance to serve as a city councilor, and I served for 32 years. How am I going to complain about that? I enjoyed it. I am spending a little bit more time with my beautiful wife and get to see some of my 6 grandchildren more often than I could otherwise. So God is good, and again, I have no complaints.
Absolutely. So one of the things, my second question to piggyback off that is, as 32 years, you know who the movers are, you know who the shakers are, you know who the snakes are, you know what's going on.
Oh yes, I know exactly what was going on, and that was part of the problem. I have more experience in city government than any other elected official in the city. And because of that, I became an expert on the city's budget.
Yes, we had you on talking about the city's budget.
And that's a very important resource to have, because the budget is a very complicated document.
As we have learned.
And it's not scientific at all, it's almost pure politics. Some people will try to make it seem very confusing, but the bottom line is the priorities of the administration is reflected in the budget that he submits.
Hold on, pause. Can we rewind? Say that one more time. Because in case somebody didn't catch it, I want it to be fully understood that this $1,513,000,000, y'all remember the number. We remember the number. And 78% of that is going into the pockets of adults, with less than 1% going to the supplies for the children. Can you please repeat what you just said?
Well, first of all, I think it's important for us to understand that it makes the difference who's in the mayor's office and who's in the city council. The city council should serve as a check and balance on the administration, because if the city council doesn't do it, who else will? No one else is closer to what's going on in city government than the city council. And the mayor can't spend 1 penny without the city council's approval. But that approval comes through the budgetary process. The budgetary process represents the priority of the mayor. So when decisions had to be made about where to cut in the school department or other departments, this mayor decided to take our children, many of our children, off the public school buses. That's why I did not vote for the budget last year. And I believe that there are other areas where we should look at. We have Boston Centers for Youth and Families, a budget of roughly $26 million. Which is fine. They do great work. They could do better, but they do great work. And they provide opportunities for our young people. We have street workers and youth workers, and we have those community centers that they run. So when you look at that, $26 million for Boston Centers for Youth and Families, and then you look at what we're paying in the police department, more than $300 million. But the more scandalous number is not the $300 million, but close to $60 million for police overtime. That's over and above what we spend for the regular salaries. And some overtime is necessary. But I would challenge the police commissioner and the mayor on spending $60 million for overtime. I think better management could probably reduce that number. And I've proposed over the years that we take $10 million out of the police overtime budget, invested in the Boston Centers for Youth and Families to hire mentors for our young people. Hire them. If we're serious about giving a greater sense of direction for our young people and providing some role models for them, hire mentors. You can call them street workers, youth workers, whatever you want. And I propose that we hire at least 300 to service the people of Boston and young people, because let's face it, many families are struggling. We have many single heads of households who could use some additional help and some guidance for their children. When I was a student at Tufts University in the 1960s, we ran a youth program where I recruited my classmates to serve as tutors to children in Boston. Tufts campus up there in Medford. Tufts, negotiated with Tufts. We got the use of many vans. I think we had about a dozen vehicles that we transported the children. So we took children from Roxbury, from Dorchester, from Columbia Point and West Medford to museums all around the greater Boston area. We took them to college campuses so we can demystify the whole concept of going to college. Many of our children are familiar only with 1 or 2 blocks around their homes.
Absolutely.
And we wanted to take them out to the beaches and to the parks. We even took children out to Orange, Mass. Now what's going on
I
in
don't even
Orange,
know
Mass?
where Orange,
It's the
Mass
western
is.
part of the state. They have a skydiving school.
Really?
So we put the children on these small planes. We didn't allow them to jump out.
Why not? That was the whole point.
No.
He said, not on my watch,
That's
no
right.
liabilities.
And I was so, I reflect on that many times. I was a teenager. And I was responsible for 200 children. We did not lose one child. And I reflect on it now because that was really too much responsibility for a teenager. But you know, I had a lot of help, and we made that happen. And I run into some of those children today who are obviously the grandparents now.
Yeah.
And that's important. But that's something that any adult can do.
Yes.
Just demonstrate to our children that we really care in everything that we do. And I guarantee you there'll be success stories. My wife, Mazette, and I have been blessed with 4 children. All 4 graduated from the Boston Public Schools.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a struggle to make sure that they received a decent education. That's why I took a page out of my mother's book and I visited every school that our children went to, and they all went on to college. So, and we're very, very proud. We're very fortunate and blessed, but we can't take anything for granted because we still live in a society that suffers from sexism and racism, and we have to challenge that every day too, in whatever ways we can. So getting back to your question.
The question about you knowing the movers, the shakers, and the snakes, what advice would you give to this new representative that does not know percentage of all the things that you know? And one of the things that I was fearful for things going underneath her radar. So things that are like, nope, I know exactly what this is, who this is coming from, and you know where this is going. I see the slippery slope. She may not see this. What advice would you give to her as far as, you know, not everybody's your friend?
Well, the advice I would give to any elected official is to make sure you're fighting for the people you represent, not just your donors, not just the powers that be, because they have their advocates. The easiest thing in the world to do is to just go along to get along. And that's, quite frankly, that's what most elected officials do, quite frankly, and I'm not casting aspersions, because they're all good people. The person who replaced me is a good person. But our challenges are too great just to go along to get along. You know, the sense of gradualism is suffocating our community because every day that goes by, there's money coming out of our community but not going back in it.
Mm-hmm.
Every day that goes by, we have businesses that are going out of business because they are locked out because of, you know, racism and discrimination in the marketplace. Every day that goes by, we have a fire department where you have very few people of color in positions of leadership. And every day that goes by, many of the people in top leadership positions, particularly in the fire department, don't even live in the city of Boston, so they're literally taking money outside the city and bringing it to their suburban communities. Now that's not to take away from the courage of many of our firefighters.
We don't have any type of ordinance that says as a city worker you live in the city?
That's a problem. We do have it, but it's been very poorly enforced.
Oh, we have a BRA
And-
ordinance as well, but that doesn't,
And we have unions that are very powerful political forces, and they've been able to pressure the state government to override local ordinances with regards to collective bargaining. So those issues are there. But with a strong mayor, I think that can be addressed. But I believe that every day that goes by there's a form of disinvestment taking place because more than $400 million a year in salaries, not even the overtime portion, the basic salaries, go to people who work for the city of Boston but don't live here. And that's compounded by the fact that in the private sector it's even worse. We have, the city of Boston is a very prosperous city. Now, some people in your listening audience won't even realize that. This is one of the most prosperous cities in the United States of America. And every day, more than 600,000 people come to the city of Boston to work. And many of those folks who work in the city of Boston don't live here. In fact, I would hazard a guess that most of the high-paying positions in the private, as well as in the public sector, go to people who don't live in the city. And that really must change if we're going to turn around the dynamic where there's this consistent underdevelopment taking place in the communities of color and really overdevelopment outside of it. All those skyscrapers you see downtown are headed up by people, with rare exceptions, who do not live in the city of Boston.
So we are coming to the top of the hour, so let's talk about this book fair.
Thank you.
On Saturday.
Thank you. The 30th C.Yancey Annual Book Fair takes place at the Reggie Lewis Center, which is located at 1350 Tremont Street, at the corner of Tremont and Malcolm X Boulevard. And incidentally, we helped change the name from New Douglas Street to Malcolm X Boulevard many years ago, thanks to the leadership of former City Councilor Gareth Saunders and I. We worked together. We got that name changed because we wanted to name our community, have a greater sense of community. And also, I'd like to say Harambe. Now, you know we have a place in the city of Boston called Harambe Park, don't you?
Yes.
All right. Thank God, because for many years people kept calling it Franklin Field. And we got that name changed in the 1980s.
It's still Franklin Field.
It's Harambe Park. It's not Franklin Field. That the official name is Harambe Park. Harambe is a Swahili word meaning community coming together. That's what we must do. That's what we must do. So let's come together at the annual book fair this Saturday, March 5th, 2016, at the Reggie Lewis Center. And I'd also like to thank the staff of the Reggie Lewis Center and the Roxbury Community College for their support, Star Market and Suffolk Construction, and our own bank in the community for
One United,
One
correct?
United Bank. Terry Williams, who's also an author. She actually mentions the Yancey Book Fair in that book that she provided.
I got bank, right?
That's right.
Can you reach out to her? Because I would love to have her on for Women's Month.
I will do that.
Thank you.
It's 7
And
o'clock.
she does a great job for us, so I'm really proud. We also received support from East Boston Bank and Eastern Bank and TD Bank. Those other banks I haven't mentioned come up and provide opportunities for our children to
So we
learn.
can mention you too.
Yes, that's right. There's so many other sponsors we've been really blessed with, and we have a GoFundMe account soon, so even the general community can contribute. Because as you know,
So you're going to continue working. This is not the end, right?
Does it look like I'm retired?
No. He said, I'm just getting started, baby. You just don't know.
Listen. All the books are free. All the book bags are free, but they all cost money.
Yes.
And so we rely on contributions, we rely on volunteers. Again, I want to say that this community has given so much to my family and I, and this is just a small way of paying back. But it's something that I expect everyone else to play forward and do the same. You don't have to come to the book fair to buy a book for your child and to read, or to donate books and time. Show that you love. And Lynette Frazier, who served as my chief of staff for more than 12 years, continues as a book fair coordinator. She does it sacrificially. I want to thank Lynette Frazier for continuing.
She's amazing.
As our book fair coordinator. She loves this community. She did a fantastic job for me in the city council. But it's only her undying love and commitment to the people of Boston that motivates her, and I'm really grateful. So thank you, Lynette. Also, again, of course, I always have to thank my wife. Imagine putting up with someone for 46 years.
I would love
Can
that.
you imagine, really?
I absolutely do.
You want to get bored with me, you think? Huh?
No, I do. I want somebody to share all your life experiences with. That would be amazing.
Without the support I received from my wife, Mazetta, since the very day I met her on August 28, 1960.
You remember the day you met her?
At 10:45 p.m.
Hold on, God, do you hear this? I need a husband like this.
So I've been really blessed, and as I reflect on it, my father and mother were married for more than 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were married for more than 50 years. Mazette and I have only been married for only 46. So we still have, some goals to achieve.
Some goals to achieve.
6 grandchildren. But I'm just, I just thank God that He's given me the opportunity to serve, and the people of Boston have allowed me to do it.
So, what is next? What's coming? What can we look forward to?
I'm going to keep you in suspense.
No, okay, so we get to have you back at least. You'll come back.
I'll be happy to come back.
Okay.
Who knows what God has waiting for you? Who knows?
You know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about this Black Task Force that's about to be revamped and headed by
Task Force.
Charles C. Yancey once again.
No, we have a lot of strong people who have great leadership skills in our community, and I would like them to participate. There are many, many opportunities to serve, and that's just one of them. And I believe that organizing our community politically is long overdue. We are missing out on many opportunities because we simply don't have the sense of unity that we need to promote our community. So when you don't have a unified or at least organized community, then individual self-interest sometimes get in the way. And you can't blame people for wanting to
Do better.
do better, make as much money as they can individually. But we have to ask the question, how can we develop our community and the people in it? And that is somewhat elusive because it's a very difficult task to organize a community that's been fragmented. We need to build coalitions. We need to reach out to people in the white community, as well as people in the Asian and Latino community, as well as the African American community, to create a city that's inclusive, that's not based on
neighborhood.
That's right, but that doesn't monopolize wealth at the very top, while people at the bottom rung are suffering economically.
Yeah, $74,600 is the AMI right now for Boston, and
How many people you know make that?
yeah, exactly.
Besides you, I mean, you're
I wish. Oh yes, hold on. You better speak that into my life.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But listeners should be commended even for doing that, for listening to your program.
Yes, thank you.
Rather than one of the other stations where they're not really being fed information that's important for their lives and the lives of their community. So I thank you for this opportunity
Thank
to
you.
spend some time with you this morning. You're a very charming young lady, and you are committed to our community, and I really appreciate that. You can't say that about everyone.
You know what I would like to do, really quickly wrapping up, I would like for you to come back, even if it's off air, I'd like to speak to you because a lot of the listeners know how passionately, we had a whole week-long conversation that you were a part of on education, and one of the things that is continuously boggling us as parents is understanding this budget, understanding this $1 billion that we have to educate our children, yet our children are still being undereducated. So
I would love to come back. As a private citizen, I still have an interest in what goes on in city government, so I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. We do have one. I want to thank this caller for their patience because they've been on hold for like 20 minutes. Good rising, caller, you're live.
Good rising, Taylor. I just want to thank you, Councilman Yancey, for the talk for your 3+ decades of service. And now I thank you for your 30-year contribution to the literacy of our youth through the C.Yancey Book Fair, which was actually the inspiration for me coining the phrase, read, Black people.
It's not illegal anymore.
Right. Thank you.
Taquan, thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. And I would like to play this song for former counselor. That is so difficult.
It's okay to call me counselor. I've been called worse. I did serve as president of the city council in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told that you never lose that title either. So if you want to call me president, I won't object. You can call me counselor. Call me whatever you want, but whatever you do, make sure you try to make this world a little better than what it was when you came here.
Absolutely. Don't forget Saturday. They have kindergarten books all the way up to doctorate level
We even have
books.
pre-kindergarten books.
Pre-kindergarten
Yes,
books.
it's very important for us to read to our children before they even start school. That's why we have very basic elementary and pre-K books for parents and guardians and even older siblings to read to the younger folks in the family, as well as books about Malcolm X and Nelson Mandela and all the other leaders that we have. But we have generic books as well. They're not all Afrocentric, unfortunately, but we have a vast variety for a variety of interests, because we want to stimulate your mind. We want you to become independent thinkers so you can promote some positive changes within our city, our country, and our world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, City Councilor Charles C. Yancey. Do not forget Saturday, the book fair going down at the Reggie Lewis Center. Also, do not forget tomorrow, Friday, I am hosting Teen DMD's Winter Recital in the city. This is going to take place at the Perkins Center. Please come out. If you have any young ladies that need support or you're thinking about putting them in a program, please come out, support DMD, Divas Mentoring Divas, the Perkins Center tomorrow. Doors open at 6:30. Show starts at 7. Adult tickets are $20. Anybody who's under the age of 18 is $5. Tickets will not be sold at the door. You have to get them in advance. This is their dance recital. This is the third time I've been hosting for these young women, and they are absolutely fantastic. They are amazing. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And this song is dedicated to City Councilor Charles C. Yancey.
Thank you.